Okay, welcome to the Nebraska Tech Collaborative's Talent Builders webinar. I'm Shonna Dorsey with the Aksarben Foundation. And today I have two special guests with me, Emma and Ryan, and Trevor. Sorry, we have three guests. But they're going to talk about this no-code solution. I'm going to mess it up. I'm just going to turn it over to you guys to introduce yourselves and then tell us what we're here to learn today.
Ryan, you want to go first?
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Ruff, and I'm the entrepreneur in resident as part of our program. And I'm excited to be here and explain a little bit about how our program works, who it's a good fit for, and hopefully inspire some people to build some cool apps, turn a hobby into an app.
I'm Emma Bennett. I work for Invest Nebraska, and I run our co-working space and entrepreneurial programming efforts in Norfolk, Nebraska. So this Rural Tech Entrepreneurship Program is just an extension of our resources we have in Omaha and Lincoln, and really expanding that to greater Nebraska.
And Trevor's having some issues with his camera, but we'll see if he's still having some issues with his camera. But Trevor's in our program, and so he's got a small part about halfway through. He's going to kind of explain the app that he's built and his experience in our program. So with that said, Emma, if you can bring up the slides, let's jump right in. Great. So the whole point here is we're going to talk about how you can take a hobby or something that you're passionate about, turn it into an app with no-code solutions. So I'm going to start off, wanted to talk about a man named Naval Ravikant, who's been a mentor of mine and he's changed my perspective on entrepreneurship. And he has this really bold claim. He said that if he lost all his money and dropped him on a random street in any English-speaking country, that within 5 to 10 years, he'd be wealthy again. He says it's a skill that he's developed and he thinks anyone can develop it. Now, when I first heard him say this, I thought there's no way that this is actually, something that's real. This is way too bold of a statement. But as I've gone in and dived into his content and learned more about his strategies, I've actually come to believe that this is true. This is something that anyone can do if they are using the correct strategies. So let's dive in. He has a new concept that he calls the 4 stages or the 4 types of luck. And so the first is blind luck. So this is just simple luck. You just a lucky break came your way. Luck from hustling. That's the second type of luck. You're going around, you're turning over every stone. Eventually you turn something over and you find something that other people didn't. The third stage of luck is luck from preparation. And he gives an interesting example. In this one, there was a gentleman who got some investors and started a gold mine. And he ran out of money, didn't find gold, went and got new investors, kept digging more, ran out of that money. And he ended up having to sell his gold mine for pennies on the dollar. And while he was trying to sell it, a man came along and he was looking through the tailings, all the dirt that they had dug out, and he noticed something. And he bought this gold mine for pennies on the dollar. Well, it turned out that the tailings were full of silver. And so this guy who had been spending all this money specifically trying to find gold didn't even realize that he had stumbled upon a huge profitable silver mine. So this luck from preparation is where you've prepared yourself to recognize opportunities that other people do not. And the last stage of luck is, he calls it luck from unique character. And there's a really interesting example of this. Imagine there's a guy who has practiced his whole life at getting to be the best deep sea diver in the world. And he's just passionate about it and has dove in, and he's known throughout the world as being the guy who can dive deeper and farther than anyone. And then somebody else, through hustle luck, scanning the bottom of the ocean and finds a shipwreck. But the problem is that this shipwreck is so deep that nobody seems to be able to be willing to go down to it. Well, who are they going to contact? They're going to contact the deep sea diver guy. And so now all of a sudden, luck is being attracted to him. Some other people have called this attraction luck, and that's why they call it that. So the idea here is that you really take a passion or a hobby and you dive into it and develop some unique character. So let's move on. So when we're talking about leveraging your unique character, you're going to take your hobby, you're going to dive in and create some sort of unique value. And then you can run it through these 3 methods of lean startup, AI tools, and no-code tools. And at the end, you can get an app that generates money for cheaper than you probably ever have thought possible. So it used to be that, you know, to make a cool app cost tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it off the ground. But with the implementation of these new strategies that have come out, there's just an explosion of innovation, and you can now do these things for a lot cheaper. There's an interesting case study that I saw where I don't want to get into specifics on the exact app, but these guys had spent over $2 million building out this entire database and infrastructure that they needed for their app. And it went all across the United States and had all these different systems in it. And now that ChatGPT is here, that entire solution can be replaced with a single prompt in ChatGPT. So there's all these things that used to be really challenging problems to overcome that now can be solved with no money and really quickly with simple AI tools. The same is true with lean startup and no-code tools. Now, I'm not going to get into AI tools because AI is all over the place. We all know about AI, but I want to talk a little bit about lean startup and a little bit about no-code. So what is lean startup? Let's look at that. Lean startup, a lot of you have probably heard of lean startup, but I like to think about this as it's similar to the scientific method, where what you're doing is you're creating a hypothesis, getting that out quickly with tight feedback loops. Let's get it out and see what the crowd thinks about this, see what other people think about this. And instead of you crafting your solution to a problem out of your own head and just hoping that it works, what you're allowing yourself to do is let the crowd kind of figure out what the solution is through iterative feedback from them interacting with early versions of your solution. So one of the best ways I've heard this described is be in love with your problem, not your solution. And so that's one of the things that we teach here in the lean startup portion of this, is that you can't treat your solution like your baby. You can't get married to this, right? If you go out there and say, hey, I've worked so hard on this solution, it's taken me months to develop this. Here, what do you think of this? What do you think the people are going to say? Of course, they're going to say, oh, that's great. Nobody wants to tell you your baby's ugly, right? So the idea here is to say, hey, here's a problem. I'm really passionate about solving this problem, and we thought that this might be a good way to solve it. What do you think? Should we waste our time developing this, or do you think that, you know, there might be a different solution? And so if you're approaching it in this way, where you're asking the crowd and you're posing the questions in the right way, the crowd is able to help you arrive at the right solution to the problem. So you want to be agnostic to the solution, be in love with the problem. And the benefits of this is you have these tight feedback loops, and you can find a great product market fit much quicker and for less money than the traditional way of building apps and building companies. So we're a big proponent of lean startup, and we teach these principles in the course. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is a little bit about no-code solutions. So this is a new concept for a lot of people, but there's apps out there that a lot of people know, like Squarespace or things like that. If you've ever seen these, they're for websites where you don't need to know how to code or anything, and you can just drag and drop tools, and you can make yourself a website in a day, and it can look pretty decent, right? So no code solutions, there's things like Adalo, there's things like Bubble.io, Flutterflow. There's a bunch of these solutions out there now that extend this idea. It's not just a website. You can actually build an app for next to nothing, sometimes even for free, in a no-code solution, and have it up in a day, a week, a month, much quicker than you ever could before. And so we're seeing apps that can sometimes get bid out by traditional dev shops for $200,000, $300,000 to build. But if you pare that down into a minimum viable product, you can probably get that same core functionality of that app out using a no-code tool like Bubble.io for free in a weekend. And now these apps, they're not going to be the most beautiful app. You're going to be plugging your nose a little bit when you put it out there. But the point here is that you're going to build something that is quick and easy, that you can test. And it's actually kind of crazy to think, but your goal here is to have people hate your app, but use it anyway. So the idea is that if you make it beautiful and you've done all this work to make it a really nice app, you've taken too long to get to the point where you're putting it out there to get feedback. But if you can get something out there quick, even if you're plugging your nose and you think this is so awful, everyone's going to hate it, that's fine. If people hate it, but they're still using it anyway, then what we know is that you actually have solved their problem. And now all we have to do to scale this is to make it look beautiful. So next I wanted to go over, and I don't know if Trevor's video is working. We can try it out and see, but this is Coach Command. So Trevor's one of the students going through our program right now, and he's an insurance agent. Trevor, you want to see if you can come on? Oh, there he is. Cool. Why don't you give us a little understanding of Coach Command and what your experience has been in the program?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll do a little segue quick here, talking about blind luck. The way I got into this is during one of our sessions over at 1 Million Cups. At the end of it, I was talking to Emma, and I'm like, "Hey, I got this idea for an app. I'm a football coach, part-time / full-time, but I want to build an app to help process team management, stuff like that." She said, "Well, funny you say that. You're standing right next to the guy that does this," and it was Ryan. And so next thing you know, Ryan and I are having a deeper conversation. Well, what can we do next? What's the next process? And talk about laying out everything in a nice, smooth process for me. And so basically what Coach Command is, it's a team management app. I coach high school football here at Norfolk Public, and a lot of the stuff that we do is through different programs, through Google Sheets, Microsoft Excel. A lot of the data that's tracked that way it's spread out. And our practice plan is kept track on a piece of paper, and it's been that way for the 2 decades that I've been coaching. So I'm like, we've got to be able to take this into at least closer to the modern century. What's the best way to do this? And, I'm always keeping track of that stuff on my phone. I'm like, well, an app would make sense. How can I have this translate over an app to the younger generation? Because right now, your majority of your high school coaches are 50s and 60s and stuff like that. But at some point, they're going to start getting younger. And so technology can get me more advanced into that aspect of things. And so we took that idea to Ryan, and he's just walked me through the entire process. He's like, okay, you go ahead and build it out, show me your vision, and then we'll take your vision to the developers that he has, and we start putting it together. We're going to find out what works, what doesn't work, what needs to stay, and what can maybe come back later date to be a part of that. And so it's just been a tremendous process. And as far as financial, it hasn't been a burden. It is ease. It's just been so smooth as opposed to what we're able to do, because when I first thought about building an app, I thought there's just going to be this gigantic Mount Everest of a process, completely daunting. I don't even know where to start, but smooth path. I loved it.
Now, I want to bring one other thing up, Trevor. So a couple of months ago, this was just an idea in your head and it had been there for a long time. And now you're starting to actually see that, we're about to deliver the app here. And what happened 2 weeks ago, big idea challenge, right? This was just an idea in your head. And then what happened to that big idea challenge?
So yeah, that big idea Norfolk challenge, I was able to get up there and present, ended up coming in second place. So I did win a little bit of money out of that. And so that money's able to turn right around and go back into it. And I'm sure the panelists wasn't biased because they didn't know who I was. And so that kind of helps.
Yeah. Yeah, great. So this is something that anyone can do. And so you chose to use some of our developers that we have, and we have some great developers that help work in no code. But you can also do this in a way where you do the development on your own, and we can support you through that. And then if you do it that way, this wouldn't cost you anything, maybe just a few weekends of your time. So thank you for that. And I wanted to introduce our program and kind of give people an understanding of what it looks like. So first is ideation. We kind of go through, make sure that we understand your idea, make sure we've got a good potential of a product market fit, and then we whiteboard that out, do some wireframes, and then we go out and validate it. See if we're onto something, if people like this idea. And there's certain ways you can do that so that you don't bias them for your idea or against your idea, and you can get some really good feedback. If it's looking good, we go in and we kind of hackathon it. We build it out in step 4. Once it's built, we put it out in the market again and pivot, refine. And then this all steps 1 through 5. It's kind of like 2 phases that we talk about. Phase 1 is building the fire. Phase 2 is throwing gasoline on a fire that's going, right? This program mainly focuses on, can we build a fire? Can we get flame? Can we get heat? We're not trying to scale this. We're not trying to help you take this to the moon. We're going from 0 to 1. And then once we do that, step 6 is, let's hand you off to the community. There are incredible resources in this community. I've just been so impressed in the few years that I've been here. I'm a transplant into this area, but I mean, we've got tons of mentors, people who are willing to help, people who are willing to jump in, fund your idea, get it scalable. But before we can start scaling and throwing money and investment at this, we need to make sure we actually have a fire. That's what this program is for. So steps 1 through 6, we'll hand you off to the community, help you raise money. I've helped several startups raise money. My current startup has raised a little bit over 6 million. And I have my first student that has gone through my mentorship program, actually out in Utah, who raised 450,000. So I'm pretty excited about that. And, hopefully we'll get Trevor there soon if he wants to raise. Sometimes you don't even need to raise, right? So that's what the program looks like. And if this is something that would be interesting to you guys, we want to invite you guys to come and join us. There's no cost. Okay, you might even get a $500 grant upon completion. And so we have some really exciting trainings through Microsoft. We give you support identifying an idea. We guide you all the way through. And then at the end, if it makes sense and it's a smart business move, we can connect you to places where you could raise money, even get future grants, and go from there. And then, Emma, did you want to talk anything about the actual program out of Intersect?
Yeah, so just to build on a little bit what Ryan was saying, so it's the kind of the 6 steps of the program. The best thing about it is it can be done virtually. We're working with Nebraska Startup Academy to get us put on their platform. So most of our interactions happen with students either virtually or tack it onto 1 million cups. They'll come in before, stay later after. So the time investment is very flexible. We have charted this out that if you spend anywhere between 5 to 10 hours a week, The program can take at least about 12 weeks and up to 24 weeks, I think, is what we looked at when we mathed it all out. And so it is very flexible. When we talk about some of the additional trainings through Microsoft, the funding for this program is being supplemented by our fellowship with Microsoft through their TechSpark program. So one of the benefits of that is that we have access to a library of Microsoft trainings and Microsoft and LinkedIn learnings. And so you can get certificates for those, post them on your LinkedIn, you get the virtual badges. So it's also something that can be a resume builder as you look at, you know, taking a hobby and then making it into its own identity. And, you know, validating that work besides just your time and effort going forward. So the perks of that really do add up to a lot more than just, oh, hey, I want to see where this can go. And that's one of the things we're really excited about, is being able to offer curriculum that is thought out, it's already planned, and it's in a space that you can actually be recognized for the work that you're doing.
Great. And, you know, I wanted to say one last thing here is that we're practicing these principles even in this accelerator program. I've been through the trenches. I've had several startups. I've had startups that have failed, that raised money and failed, and that's a really awful experience. But I've also been a part of successes, and I've had to learn a lot of these lessons the hard way. And I'm ready to give back into the community and help people to learn lean startup, help people to learn how to leverage no code and AI so that they don't have to raise a ton of money on an idea that's not validated. So we're doing this in a way where we can walk alongside you and help you to build your idea into reality. So appreciate those who attended. And if you want to apply to be a part of our program, as it stands right now, I think we have 4 slots open. And if you scan the QR code, you can scan and that'll take you to the website where you can apply. Again, there's no cost to this, and you could get up to a $500 grant, and we'll walk you through the entire process. I didn't know if we wanted to leave it open for any questions, but that's what we have, and we appreciate you guys joining.
Thank you so much. This is so great, and I'm very inspired. I almost want to sign up myself because I have 2 ideas I want to run through this. So anyway, I know that Jean, who's on with us, she did mention that she had to pop in and out, but I'll send her the recording afterwards, and that'll be available for everyone. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat, but any final thoughts from you guys? Awesome. And Trevor, can you explain to me, just because I don't think I got it, but what does your app do?
So I guess I could really probably talk about this for hours. The idea behind my app is it's doing everything for you as far as team management. So the implementation is for right now for youth teams, the YMCA. It allows you to create your own team, invite the parents in there as well as the athletes. So everybody's gonna be able to use this on their phone. That will give you direct channels for if coach wants to talk to all the parents, he's able to do that directly. If he wants to make an announcement so everybody sees it, they were able to do that as well. Or talk directly to one of the athletes, you're able to do that as well. And then outside of that, you're able to keep attendance. So anytime somebody comes to practice, you're able to check them in, whether they're present, absent, late, or excused, they had something else going on. You can track that aspect of things. The scheduling of when the games are going to be, the times the kids are able to check in, say, yep, I'm going to make that game, or no, or maybe because I've got something else going on right now. But the biggest thing that really drew me to creating this app is, again, just going to practice planning. Everything's kept on a piece of paper. So time starts at 4:35. We get done at 6:35. So we got 2 hours of stuff in between, but stuff always takes longer, or you get sidetracked on stuff like that. I'm like, how can we put technology behind this to keep us on track? Because some kids, they get tired of practicing when we're there for 4 hours when we should have been done in 2 hours. And so I'm like, all right, let's have something that starts on, like on a spreadsheet, for instance. It's as soon as you start practice, there's a timer. And so it counts down that you've got 5 minutes left in that practice portion, then it'll alert you when there's 30 seconds is about to expire. That way it tells you to stay on track. Time's up, beep, beep, move on, get to the next thing. And so when everybody's seeing this, able to see this all on their same phones, they're like, all right, time to keep moving. We want to get out of here as well. So that's the biggest part of it. Everything else is kind of what makes it more smoother, what's going to make it want to be used by coaches for the high school and youth athletics. So
That's great. That's good deal. Thanks for sharing that. And I think I saw Jean raise her hand, but do you have a question that you want to ask us? Okay, I'm not seeing it, but this bit has been so great, so informative. Oh, there it is. There's the question. Sorry, 1 second. Okay, no. All right. Thank you guys so much for your time today and for sharing more information about this. Trevor, congratulations on getting your product launched, and I'm excited to see where that goes, because you probably know from coaching that there's a lot of value that this could add for other teams, and there's some like subscription opportunity there that I see for you. So that's super exciting. Love it. Great. Well, thanks again. And we can all stay on. I'm just going to end the recording, and thank you guys for joining me today.
Great.